People, deluded, I'm back again. Now, Arsenal and we tried. Two things that makes any Arsenal fan's blood boil. If we signed just 5 of these players we tried to sign, we'd have some great players, man. You know, we'd have Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, Yaya Toure, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Griezmann, all of these guys. And I do think media and things exaggerate when they say Arsenal are close to players and stuff and try and point fun at this sort of particular thing that Arsenal go with. But the Athletic have spoken on some signings that were allegedly close. A lot of signings that we knew were close to happening. So we might as well speak about them. And it's in the it's an article by James Nicholas. Apologies, people. That's me. I promise you, I've got ill health, man. My window's open. Hay fever's messing with me. Need to get my tablet. But first one is Jamie Vardy. Now, before I get into it, I just have to say my thoughts so I don't forget them. I don't fault Jamie Vardy for not leaving Leicester. He had a good thing going for him. Whether Leicester, obviously now it looks even more because he's going to play another year of Champions League with Leicester. But he has a good thing going with Leicester. He's a legend. He's going to play. He's comfortable there. Obviously, the flip side could have been Leicester fell off and Arsenal went better, and he could have said it's an opportunity gone. But he's stable. He's been at Leicester for a number of years, and people underrate stability. And especially, how old was he at the time? He was like touching his 30s by the time he moved to was spoken of moving. He could have, but you know, the nature of things, it could have changed. And obviously Arsenal is very, let's be honest, it's a toxic environment at times. He's got things, Leicester people just leave him alone. He was playing for England at the time, he's playing for his club, he's won the league, no real reason to leave. We were close though, because, you know, Arsene Wenger, I think any player will listen to what Arsene Wenger has to say, whether they move or not's a different thing. But in relation to him, obviously, as you lot know, he claimed he never spoke directly with anyone at the club. Vardy was telling a bit of a white lie there, because according to Dick Law, he says the deal with Leicester was done, the deal with the player was done, so clearly a fee and personal terms were agreed. Law tells the Athletic he came down with his wife Rebecca, he sat on the couch in front of Arsene, and then he backed off. Maybe he had cold feet, maybe his wife didn't fancy a move to London. Who knows, people? Maybe he decided, I want to stay at Leicester. We'll never know until Vardy expands on this. He said, an Arsenal car took Vardy back to Leicester. On his way back to Leicester, I get a call from the player saying he wants to think about it overnight. At that point, you know it's bad news. And I mean, for any club, unless it's Lionel Messi or Ronaldo, again, pride can't get in the way, but the club should have backed out of the offer from then. Any club, especially a top 6 club, any club. If someone has to sleep over, don't get me wrong, I understand the player, don't make, from a player's point of view, don't make hasty decisions, sleep on it. But from a club's point of view, you only, unless you're Lionel Messi or Ronaldo, or, you know, you have to only call once. If a man has to sleep overnight, and no disrespect to Leicester, we're supposed to be Arsenal, that highlights how much we've fallen off as a club. That highlights we should just put the deal dead in the water. Like I said, can't begrudge Vardy. Plenty of reasons to stay in at Leicester at the time, and even in present day staying at Leicester. But regardless, this should have highlighted how much we fell off, because no disrespect to Leicester, if Arsenal, United, Liverpool, teams like this call for you, you know, you go. You don't have to think about it. You go. You know, and that should have made Arsenal go harder to pattern up as a team. Really, no disrespect to Vardy. I think Vardy made the right decision staying at Leicester, because he's got a decent contract there. He's got stability. He's away from the nonsense and the toxic environment that fans can be at times. Let's call a spade a spade. Champions League football again. You know, he's clearly settled in the area of Leicester. He's been at Leicester for a number of years. I think he was even there when Harry Kane made his loan spell there. So that highlights everything for you. And this should even, all the things I'm saying in Vardy's defence, this should highlight people why Arsenal should have got a move on to fix up as a club. Because again, there's been man in tougher situations, in more stability, and they've packed it all up to come to Arsenal. Those Arsenal fans that are from older than me know more than me in that regards. But this should tell you how much we've fallen off. But yeah, man, he said he needed to speak about it, think about it, whatever. A day after it was suggested, Vardy wanted to focus on his commitments to the England team before making a decision. Clearly, this is stalling. Although it would be several weeks before Vardy declared his decision to remain at Leicester, Arsenal had all but given up hope of concluding a deal. So yeah, you can't back it up. It went on to speak about Vardy and his wife had been married a matter of weeks and had not long moved into their Melton Mowbray home they had lovely restored. She was also pregnant with their second child. Some things perhaps matter more in football. In any case, Vardy presumably feels relatively secure in his choice, like I said. And to be fair, obviously family life is important. His wife's got kids and things. But again, Arsenal, Leicester, this should highlight things, people. So shout out to Vardy, he made the right choice. An interesting bit though, on one hand we heard Lucas Perez on one article by The Athletic was on his way to going to Everton before we got involved in that deal. Apparently Perez didn't want to leave Deportivo and he had to be convinced to leave by his agent, and you know we went for Perez because we didn't sign Vardy. And again, we went for signings like this, and you get what you pay for with Perez. To be fair, Perez, I don't think he got much of a chance, but I don't think he really convinced with his opportunities he got. And if we're buying players we're not really convinced, can we be scared? Can we be surprised that we spunked how much money down the drain? Now, there's also a Brazilian goalkeeper called Marcus who we was allegedly interested in. It was apparent. I'm just going to read it. It was January 2003 and Law was living in South America. Arsenal had lost reserve goalkeeper Ramin Shaban to a broken leg and had identified Marcos, a Brazilian international, as someone who could not only provide immediate competition and cover, but also be Seaman's successor. At 29, he was like Vardy, something of a late developer, a man of faith who followed Felipe Scolari from Palmeiras to the Brazilian national team. He'd enjoyed an outstanding tournament at the 2002 World Cup, conceding 4 goals in 7 games. Wenger and Dean reached out to Law and asked him to speak to the club about acquiring the goalkeeper. Terms were quickly agreed with the club, and the player gave his consent to. In quotations, I noticed a certain reticence, I can't say that word, on the player's part. Law tells The Athletic, but I told myself, hey, it's a big move, and plus he's a goalkeeper. They often have that unpredictable mentality. Law flew to England with Marcos and his representative. The story of the impending transfer began to break across the British press. We met with Arsene and David. Everything seems to be fine. Then we were supposed to be signing the next morning. We were staying near the club ground at Soapwell House. At 1:30 in the morning, I get a call and it's Marcus and he says, I've got to talk to you. I said, Marcus, it's 1:30 in the morning. But he said, no, I've got to talk to you right now. I'm coming over. So he came over and he sat down and said, I can't do this. Marcus said, I just talked to my father and my father asked me if I was happy in Brazil. I told him he was. Then his father asked how much money he made and how much Arsenal were offering. And he told him. Then Marcus's father said, money is not everything. Your family is here. Your life is here. Your club is here. Why do you want to move to London? And I would say this again, money isn't everything. If he's comfortable in his Brazilian way of life, then he should. But I do think what I would ask this goalkeeper is, does he regret not making that move? Does he think, what if? And then if he thinks, what if? This is what I'd say in all my vids. You've got to make decisions because you want to make decisions. A part of you wanted to stay, a part of you wanted to go. I'm not saying don't look at council, but, that's an outside influence kind of using their opinion and kind of swaying you. If you sometimes you need that. But again, are you making these choices because you made it? Because you could have earned more money. You could have had a way of life in London. Who knows where your life could have taken you away from football? You might have met someone who became a good business partner of yours and he helped you set up something that secures generational wealth for your children. I don't know, but it is what it is. He didn't make the move, people. So whatever reason, if he feels he's made the right choice. In relation to Julio Baptista, as you know, we signed him on his free transfer. Arsene Wenger had planned to remodel his midfield around the Brazilian. I remember David Dean going to Seville to try and negotiate his transfer and being stiff-armed by Seville's management for several days. Seville had David Dean cooling in his heels in Seville while they were double dealing with Madrid. A year on, Arsenal finally got their man on loan. By then, however, says Fabregas had emerged as the heartbeat of the Arsenal team and Baptista proved a somewhat awkward fit. Arsenal declined to make the deal permanent and Law says the Brazilian was devastated to leave North London. Shout out to Baptista, but I'd agree with that. We wouldn't say it was a success. In relation to Juan Mata, people, a man that Arsenal should have signed. Apparently he definitely wanted to come to Arsenal. He was recommended by the scouting department, as you've seen in previous articles. Apparently, Wenger instructed Law to fly to Spain where he met with Mata's father, who represented his interests. They crafted out an agreement over the player's contract, and then we waited. Juan definitely wanted to come to England. There was no question about that, says Law. However, Wenger and Arsenal harboured concerns over the value of Matter's contract and fee. As they stalled, Chelsea muscled in on the deal, and I think his move to Chelsea has been vindicated, people. It is what it is, people, and he's played for Manchester United and Chelsea, so things work out. He played for two. He's won sporting honours at one, and he's played for the biggest club in this land in another. So you snooze, you lose. Matter would have been a great signing for us in Valencia days, as with David Silva and many players we were linked with around them times, but it didn't happen. He says, we didn't have the money to say we'll spend... we didn't have the money to say we'll spend a bit more to block. Apparently, this article also said that we were in very advanced negotiations in 2012 for Eden Hazard, and at one point, Wenger even entertained the player's agent at his North London home. However, those talks did not come to fruition. In this period, Arsenal operated under strict guidelines to pay on any given deal, typically 5% of the value of the salary. In this situation, like Hazard's, where the player was being courted by almost every big club in Europe, Arsenal simply did not have the financial flexibility to meet the shifting demands from the players' camp. So it is what it is. We missed out on Hazard. They're the signings you've got to make before it's happened. Now, Kante, and this is the only one I really get annoyed with, and Arsene Wenger specifically with this one, because I remember when he was there saying I knew Kante since 14 years of age. Okay, that's good, Wenger. You lot know me, I love Arsene Wenger, but why didn't he come here at 16 then? Why didn't he come here at 17? Why didn't he come here at 20? Why didn't he come here in his, towards the period, late by footballers' terms, but when people started paying attention to him? Why didn't he come the first season at Leicester? What happened? But looking at it, looking at this, the club investigated the possibility of bringing him to the Emirates. While Kante had a relatively affordable release clause, the issue was the size of the agents' fees involved. 2 agents were involved in the deal. According to documents from Football Leaks, Gregory Deckard pocketed 6.4 million and Abdel Karim Duiz went with 4.2 million. So there's almost 10 million or so, 10.6 people spent on agent fees alone in addition to the transfer fee that had to take Kante. So this is sometimes where moves don't work out, and I can't always blame clubs. The reported agent fees were so high, even dissuaded PSG from following their interest. Never mind Arsenal. When things reached an extreme, we tended to back away. And to be fair, whatever people say, that's probably whatever Kante's fee went for from Leicester to City. We've got to add another 10 million. But, they've been backed up with that move for Kante, people, because they won, forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm sure he's won the league with Chelsea, and he's been linked with Barcelona and PSG. They probably won't sell him, but they could make their cash back. And again, they might have to deal with these agents. In relation to Mahrez was another Leicester player who had relentlessly been linked with a move to Arsenal. In his case, pricing proved prohibitive. That same summer, Wenger spoke with Mahrez's agent, but unlike Kante and Vardy, there was no set release clause. The financial restrictions under which Arsenal operated meant they had to pay particular attention to the player's resale value. This meant that some signings fell through due to the player's age. Moving again, people, Mark Schwarzer, a goalkeeper, Australian, we were linked with him in 2010. He said, we knew Mark was a top drawer in terms of his ethics and his work rate. We did all our homework on him. He was an outstanding professional, no doubt. Speaking to Fantasy FC last year, Schwarzer said, Roy Hodgson rang me. It was about 3 days before the World Cup in South Africa, and he says to me, Arsenal have been on the phone. They're interested. Do you want to go? I went, definitely. I love my time at Fulham. It's been brilliant and really great working under you. But yeah, it's an opportunity to play Champions League football and play for an unbelievable club. So yeah, we'll sort it out. We'll get another keeper in. As long as we get enough money for you, we'll make it happen. As it turned out, Fulham and Arsenal had quite different ideas to what constituted value for a 37-year-old goalkeeper. When Arsenal submitted their opening offer of 2 million, Fulham countered it by asking for double that amount. It was not an outlay Wenger could justify. I'm not going to bore you over it again as well, people, but there's also the signing of David Villa, and apparently Wenger harboured concerns over whether he'd be able to do it, especially as he's approaching the end of his physical prime. So I'm not going to bore you with that, people. One interesting one is that, a player who's been an Arsenal legend, Yannick Villa, as you lot know, apparently he was, apart from the links, there was never any real interest or never any tactics or any headwinds to try and make it happen, sort of thing, people. Pardon me. One funny one though is we basically missed out on Tevez and Mascherano, two players where, if you consider where Arsenal was going at the time, resale value would have been there. Look at Mascherano, he went to Juventus. Obviously Tevez went on to win stuff with United before Juventus. Mascherano went to Barcelona, sorry. Law still recalls the day he got a phone call from David Dean saying that Kaya Jarakin, an ironic name who's at Arsenal Emirates all the time in present day, was offering Arsenal Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano for 1.5 long fee each, which would have been 3 million. Arsenal declined, citing concerns over who held the players' registrations and consequently who would receive the fees. West Ham were less so, and Tevez's goals helped them avoid relegation, but it cost them more than 25 million in fines and settlements. And you could say Arsenal, regardless of Tevez and Mascherano, they've been backed up in such, because again, you remember Tevez's thing at the time, and it did have that. I remember Sheffield United trying to get West Ham relegated because of that at the time. And I remember Tevez was called a flop in his first season, and then it was like towards the end he just started bagging goals, and we all remember that goal. I think West Ham won, I can't remember, but he scored against Manchester United at Old Trafford. I can't remember if they won, but I'm pretty sure they did. So yeah, man, it's always interesting. And obviously when you hear Mahrez, Vardy, Mata, Villa, obviously a lot of these players not only could have helped Arsenal with success, sadly, potentially would have and could have been sold off to other clubs for more money and stuff. And considering where we are as a club, obviously that would hurt, but you know, it would have helped us. But for one reason or another, a lot of these things didn't happen. A lot of transfers that haven't been mentioned in this article didn't happen, people. So it is what it is in that regards. So yeah, there's nothing really more to add. So I'm going to get out of here, people. It's always a pleasure. But Deluded, I'm out.